Alright guys, a little bit late on this video, but this is going to be the UFC 325 Volk versus Lopes 2 best bets. We used to do these for the cards back in the day. I bet the last one I did was probably like 6-7 months ago. But yeah, we're going to go through almost every fight on the card, and for most fights I'll give you one best bet, and for others I have two listed. But we'll start off with the first road to UFC. It was going to be the Aaron Tao fight. Tao didn't make weight. He tried the DC trick, and it didn't work. So, yeah, let's talk about this fight first. Sulang Rambo versus Lawrence Louis. So, I actually bet on Lawrence Louis in both of his road to UFC fights, and I hit him in both of those. I believe the last one, I bet the fight to not go the distance when he knocked out Van Niem. And I had Van Niem in the first fight he had on road to UFC. So, yeah, I'm going to just take fight doesn't go the distance. I think Lawrence Louis has that forward pressure, boxing heavy style where he doesn't do a whole lot. And he's going to be on the back foot in terms of the speed against Sulang Rambo. But I think at the same time, it could take one counter shot from Lawrence Louis to put Sulang Rambo on the ground. And it could take one shot from Sulang Jambo, however you're supposed to say his name. It could take one shot from him to, I think, hurt Lawrence Louis. And it could be to the body, it could be to the head, it could be a punch, it could be a kick. So I expect most of this to be a striking matchup. I think if anybody's going to use the grappling to their advantage, it would probably be Lawrence Louis pushing Sulang Rambo up against the cage. But I'm going to say the fight doesn't go the distance. I think at under minus 200, you have a pretty good line there to play that, and it covers both sides. It covers a KO, it covers a sub. I'm expecting a KO from Sulang Rambo, and it could be early in the first round, it could be in the second, it could be in the third, but like I said, it covers it just in case the forward pressure and counter-striking style of Lawrence Louis is able to crack the chin or hit him with a body shot, and it wins that fight, and then you're not sitting with the Sulang Rambo ticket. So I'm going to take fight doesn't go the distance, minus 185, and we'll move to the next one. All right, up next you've got Keiichiro Nakamura taking on Sebastian Zalay. I like Zalay moneyline. I liked Keiichiro Nakamura in his first fight on the road to UFC. I bet him. I believe I bet him by KO. But I don't know. They might not have had the lines for the method of victory in the first road to UFC fight. But I like Nakamura's style. Southpaw, moves in and out. Very good lateral movement. Good straight left hand. He's got good counters. Good counter knees, which his first opponent on road to UFC was met with. But in the last fight that he won against Kai Wen, he was getting cracked with some big shots, and Kai Wen isn't a very technical striker. He just hits very hard and kind of is like a brawler. He reminds me of a forward pressure brawler, and I think Zalay is just a little bit cleaner. I could see Zalay knocking Nakamura out early. I could see it being a close fight where Zalay just edges it out, landing the better counters, landing the better shots, and just winning a close fight on the scorecards. And I could see a KO late from Sebastian Zalay as well. I really like the fakes and feints that he uses, and I feel like Nakamura probably gets hit a little bit too much for the counter-striking style of Zalay, and he might not bite on the feints super early, but I think once he starts getting hit with that jab, once he starts getting hit with that right hand, that he's going to eventually start to bite on the feints, and I think that's going to open up that left hook from Sebastian Zalay, and I think he's going to hurt him, and I think he's going to knock him out. But again, I like the money line because I think Zalay is the cleaner, sharper fighter. I think he uses better fakes and feints. I think the speed advantage probably goes to Nakamura, but with the fakes and feints, it might be able to slow down the speed of Nakamura enough to where Sebastian's able to land the sharp counters with his boxing and his kicks and his knees. And yeah, I think he can outpoint him. I think he can knock him out. But if you're telling me I got to pick a winner, I'm going to take Sebastian Zalay because I just think he's the sharper fighter on the feet, and I believe most of this fight to take place on the feet for the majority of it, whether it's a finish or it goes the distance. So give me the Zalay money line. I like it at minus 135. I think he's the cleaner fighter overall, and I think he's going to land the sharper counters. All right, and for the last road to UFC final, you've got the Frogman taking on the Street Buddha in Kim taking on Donmar Pham. I like the fight ends by sub. I think both these guys primarily grapplers. Both these guys are very good grapplers. I think the more technical and solid all-around grappler with the pace, the pressure, and the fighter who makes less mistakes in the grappling, I'd actually have to give that to Donmar Pham. He is the favorite in the fight, though, so it makes sense, but I like the fight 10 by sub. Now, don't get me wrong. I think Kim has the better boxing. I think he picks his shots better. He's got the better straight punches, and I think he rips to the body, which could be the kryptonite for Don Marfan's style. But I just eventually see that forward pressure, that over-under position, the body locks, the inside, the outside trips, the throws. I think it eventually just gets to Kim, and I think Kim will have some good reversals early on in the fight, but I think later on in the second and in the third round, that's when the Street Buddha, his style is going to wear on the Frogman. I think he's going to wear on Kim, and I think he's just going to get those better positions, and I think he's going to be able to eventually set up a submission. If not, if it's Kim who comes out on top, I think that the body shots and the strikes to the head could knock down Don Marfan, which could open up the back take and a potential rear naked choke for Kim to win this fight by submission. So at over plus 200, I think this would be the way I would take it. I think it's a close fight. I think the better striker is Kim. I think the overall better grappler and the more technical grappler is Fan, and I think this could go late, and it could be a battle of attrition, and I think if somebody's going to lose that battle of attrition, they're going to get hurt with the striking and give up a submission, or they're just going to get out-scrambled and give up a submission. So I like fight ends by sub, plus 225, and it covers both sides, and I think if it's a finish, it more than likely would be a submission. So, yeah, my pick for the fight, for the winner, is Don Marfan, but the bet is going to be ends by sub, plus 225. Right, Khan Ofli versus Yi Jia. Yeah, I'm on Yi Jia here. He was at under minus 200. I think it dropped to minus 190, minus 195. I like that number a lot. I like him here over Khan Ofli. I feel like he's the much better striker in a fight that, you know, every fight starts on the feet. I think the grappling of each of these guys can kind of cancel each other out overall. And, you know, Yi Jia has more submissions than he does KOs overall in his career. So I don't really see him getting out-controlled and out-grappled and potentially submitted by a guy like Khan Ofli. And I really think that the only way Khan Ofli wins is by imposing the grappling and getting a lay-and-pray-based decision where maybe he takes the back of Yi Jia, puts in the body triangle, because we've seen Yi Jia get caught in that position before, and maybe he just rides it out and lands some ground and pound and maybe gets a sub late, or he comes out and takes his back and subs him early. But I think Yi Jia's the winner. I think he's the more well-rounded fighter. We saw his striking against Weston Wilson, and people are going to bash that win, you know, overall, but I'll bash Khan Ofli's last win just as much. I mean, he came in as an underdog and he submitted a Ricardo Ramos, who is an absolute trash can and a quitter. I mean, let's just be honest with each other. So I think both of the guys' last wins cancel each other out, and I'm going to take the more well-rounded fighter, and I'm going to take Yi Jia by knockout at plus 900, almost plus 1,000 against a guy who I think isn't the best on the feet and definitely leaves defensive openings, or leaves his defense to be desired and leaves a lot of openings on the feet. I think Yi Jia has the power to put this guy down. I think he could hurt him with a shot, rip to the body, drop him. I think he could catch him with a shot coming in, knock him down and finish him off. I think he could get a sub. But I'll take the chance on the knockout with the guy who I believe is the more comfortable and better striker in a fight that's a mixed martial arts fight and not a grappling contest. So give me the money line on Yi Jia. Give me Yi Jia KO plus 900. I think he puts down Khan Ofli, and he might drop him and sub him, and then the KO, you're like, damn, you know, what just happened? But I think it's a KO, and I think Yi Jia is cleaner on the feet, and he will use his grappling from a defensive perspective to piece up Khan Ofli on the feet. So give me Yi Jia by KO plus 900. Yi Jia on the money line. I think he's the good value here. All right, up next, you've got Oban Elliott taking on Jonathan McAuliffe, the Welsh gangster versus the captain. I got to go Jonathan McAuliffe here. I was on him in the last fight. Elliott pulled out. I'm going to go back to the well on Jonathan McAuliffe. I just think he's the more well-rounded fighter. He's a southpaw. I think he's the cleaner striker on the feet. I would just give the pressure and the power advantage to Oban Elliott. But aside from that, I don't really think Oban Elliott is technically good anywhere. But I think Jonathan McAuliffe is the better technical striker. He's very good at using that southpaw position. He's good at getting that outside angle. And especially against a guy who's going to look to pressure you and come forward. I think that check hook will be there. The left kick to the body, the kick to the head. And if he gets his kick taken down and gets countered with a punch and goes to the ground, he's very well versed off of his back. He's got good triangles, good submissions. And I think he's live to submit a guy like Oban Elliott, who doesn't really have much of a ground game if you go back and watch you know, his last fight against Seok-Young Ko. Now, Seok-Young Ko versus Jonathan McAuliffe, I don't know who I go with in that one. But in this fight, I'm going to take the better overall fighter, the fighter who I believe has more ways to win, over the guy who kind of has to catch the opponent with a lucky shot or slow him down in the second and third round. So I like Jonathan McAuliffe money line But just to play it safe, because I know Elliott's dangerous, he's a tough guy, and the pressure might get to Jonathan over that 15-minute fight. He might start to slow down with his circling and his movement. He might be able to get caught up against the cage and hit with a big shot. So I'll also take a stab on the fight doesn't go the distance at plus money, plus 140. I think that it's Elliott late with a KO in the second or the third, and I think it could be Mikhailov with a KO or a submission in the first or the second round. I wouldn't necessarily think it would be in the third round. I think if it's a third round finish, that more goes to the side of Jonathan Mikhailov, or I'm sorry, goes to Oban Elliott. But yeah, I like Mikhailov for an overall pick. I think he's cleaner. I think he's sharper. I think he's more well-rounded, and he has a huge advantage on the mat. And I like the fight doesn't go the distance because I think Mikhailov could catch him with one of those kicks to the body and hurt him there. He could catch him with the left kick to the head. He could catch him coming in with a check hook, or he could submit him on the ground, and Elliott's pressure could get to Mikhailov, and he could outwork him in the later rounds and get an attritional TKO later on. So Mikhailov minus 135 and doesn't go the distance plus 140. Are going to be my best bets for this fight. All right, Malkoun versus Finney. I'm going to keep this one short. Just fight doesn't go the distance. I wouldn't recommend betting on this fight, so if you're going to ask me overall, I would say skip. I don't trust Finney. I don't trust Malkoun. I think Malkoun is better technically, but Torres Finney just might be strong enough to keep Malkoun on the ground. But if I'm going to take a shot on anything, I would just take doesn't go the distance. I think Finney has enough power to hurt Malkoun with one big shot on the feet, and I think Malkoun is clean and technical enough and might have good enough defensive wrestling to slow down Finney and then beat him in the second or the third round, kind of like what we talked about with Oban Elliott against Mikhailov. But the overall pick and best bet, I'm just going to say fight doesn't go the distance. But if you're asking my real opinion, I would say skip this fight. I wouldn't touch it from either side. I wouldn't take a money line. I wouldn't take goes the distance. I wouldn't take the under or the over. I would just skip it. But if I got to give you one, I'll take fight doesn't go the distance at plus money because I think there's a live opportunity for a KO on both sides and potentially a submission from either side as well. So fight doesn't go the distance, and we'll move to the next one. All right, Cam Rouston, Cody Brundage. Easy bet for me. Cam Rouston to win in round 1 or round 2. You could take the money line at minus 340, minus 350, but I think if Rouston wins, he finishes Brundage. Brundage is tough. He's explosive. He's good in the early rounds. He definitely can get a knockout. But I think Rouston is more comfortable with his striking now. He does have that tall man defense where he uses that lead hand to measure, and he could get caught over the top by Brundage, so Brundage is always live for an early KO. But I think Rouston will use his length, use his reach, and counter Cody Brundage. And I think once he hurts Brundage, Brundage is just going to kind of cover up and try to throw a couple counters and maybe look for a way out. I mean, I really think he'll look for a way out here. So I'm going to take Rouston, the longer, taller fighter who has good grappling if he gets taken down, good submissions. He's known as a grappler, but he's more comfortable with his striking, and he's the longer, taller fighter, and I think he's a lot hungrier to win this fight than Cody Brundage at this point. And they're going to be in Australia, man. Like, this guy's going to come in looking for a finish. He's going to come in looking to be excited. So if you want to cut that money line down and basically cut it in half or more than half, I would take Cam Rouston to win in round 1 or round 2 at minus 135. I think it could be a sub. It could be a hurting him with a shot, jumping on his back and subbing him, or it could be a KO. I lean more towards the KO. I think he hurts him on the feet and just, rushes him to get a stoppage. But if you're losing a decision to Eric McConaughey, I mean, I got to be honest with you. I don't have any faith in you. So give me Cam Rouston. Give me Cam Rouston to win in round 1 or round 2, minus 135. I think it's a KO, but it could be a sub. All right, next fight up, Billy Elikana versus Junior Tafa. Yeah, my favorite pick is fight doesn't start round 3, minus 140. I think Tafa's live for an early knockout, probably only in the first round. If he's going to get it, that's when it's going to be. But I think Elikana is good enough to get this guy down to the ground and not allow him to get up. I mean, Tafa's basically a dead fish on the mat, and I think Elikana has enough fight IQ to not try to give him a chance to win. So I think he takes him down in the first round, gets on top, and probably submits him with an arm triangle or a rear naked choke. So I like a stab on the Elikana sub round 1, round 2. Last time I checked it, it was plus 270. It's probably still in the plus 200, so I would definitely take a shot on that if it was me right now. But to be safe, I'll say, knock on wood, you never know. I'll take fight doesn't start round 3, minus 140. So my favorite bet for the fight is doesn't start round 3. It covers the Tafa KO, and it covers a KO or a submission from Elikana. But the way I think the fight plays out is Elikana takes down Tafa, softens him up, and submits him in the first round. So I'll take the Elikana sub round 1, round 2 on FanDuel plus 270. I think that's a good option. I think that's a good bet. And yeah, we'll move to the next one. Quill and Cell killed Jamie Malarkey. Again, one that we're going to keep short and sweet. I like Quill and Cell killed by knockout, minus 145. I mean, Jamie Malarkey gets touched on the chin and does the chicken dance a la Conor McGregor. You know, everybody who can hit this guy can pretty much hurt him or put him out. And I think Cell Killed is the real deal. I think Cell Kid, they know, the UFC knows what they're doing here. They're giving him a veteran. They're giving him a grizzled vet, but a guy who's been knocked out plenty of times, a guy who's been hurt plenty of times against a guy who just head kicked Nasrat Haqparast, and Haqparast knocked out Jamie Malarkey. MMA math doesn't work all the time, but it works some of the time if you put your thinking cap on. I like Cell Killed by KO. He's like minus 1,000 money line. Just take the knockout. If you want to take the finish, I think the KO or sub is like minus 450. So it cuts the money line over in half, but I'll take the chance that he gets the KO, and it covers it if it does get to the third round. But I think it's a first or second round knockout for Quill and Cell Killed. He's too sharp, too clean, too technical, too sharp for Jamie Malarkey, who gets hit all the time and doesn't really have the best defense. Only thing he has is a little rolling left hook where he steps to the left, rolls underneath, and tries to land that hook. He's caught some guys with it. I don't think he catches Quill and Cell Killed with it. So give me Cell Killed by knockout, probably in the first round, but the KO minus 145. Take it to the bank. All right, next fight up, Mauricio Rufy versus Rafael Fiziev. This one's going to have you sweating. This one's going to be probably one of the riskiest plays on the card, but I like Mauricio Rufy by decision. I think everybody's going to come into this fight expecting a KO from either side. You know, Fiziev, world Muay Thai champion, former coach at Tiger Muay Thai. I mean, the guy has some of the best kickboxing in Muay Thai in MMA and in the world in general, but a lot of people are going to say, like, oh, he's the much cleaner and better striker. And don't get me wrong, he is. But the length and reach of Mauricio Rufy, I think, can give Fiziev a lot of trouble, man. And I'll take a chance on Rufy here, and I'll take a chance on Rufy via decision. I think we could get a primary kickboxing match where maybe either guy isn't too comfortable, you know, coming forward and committing. And, you know, Fiziev's usually really good on the back foot, good on the front foot. He can use his grappling. We saw him do it against Ignacio Bahamondes, but I think he's going to want to stand and strike with Rufy. I think it's going to be a kickboxing match for the majority of it. When Rafael gets on the inside, he'll land some big shots. I think he'll land some good kicks to the body against Rufy. I think that's actually his best weapon would be the wrestling and the body kicks. And I think if it's at length and distance, I think Rufy can counter-strike Fiziev. He can catch him from the outside, use the straight punches, the jab, the 1-2, slip into the inside of the jab, landing the overhand right. The slip cross is good. I think his kicks are going to be good as well. I think overall the better kickboxing comes from Fiziev, but I think the better boxing, at least at range, and having the length and reach advantage, it might come from Rufy. So I'm going to take a chance on this fight being close, going to the scorecards, and them edging out the former fighting nerd on the scorecards. Give me Mauricio Rufy via decision plus 240. I think this fight could be really boring, and people are expecting fireworks, and it just may not be that. So I like Rufy via decision plus 240 in a fight that probably is going to be a point-fighting kickboxing match for however long it lasts. All right, the co-main event, Benoit Saint Denis versus Dan Hooker. I was going to give you Saint Denis via finish. It's under minus 200. I was going to give you Saint Denis via decision, via submission, but I'm going to give you just the fight doesn't go the distance, minus 245. It covers both sides. Hooker's tough. Hooker's durable. I think he gets taken down and smashed on the ground, but he's good on the feet. He could time Benoit coming in with a head kick. He could time him with one of those vicious knees up the middle. And if Benoit does slow down going into the second round, maybe Hooker can start to beat him up on the feet, chop those calf kicks and land a good knee up the middle, land some uppercuts, beat him up in close with hooks and, you know, uppercuts to the body, and just eventually break him in the late second and in the third round. But I think Saint Denis takes him down, but I think the fight doesn't go the distance, minus 245. I think you're getting a discount. You know, I don't want to jinx it, but I think we're getting a discount here. I think it should be like minus 450, minus 500 to not go the distance, even though it's only 3 rounds. I think Hooker gets taken down, beaten up, and submitted, just like his last fight against Arman Tsarukyan. So give me the fight doesn't go the distance. It covers a finish on both sides. It covers the KO. It covers the sub. And yeah, I think it's a good price. All right, and now we're at the main event, the rematch for the featherweight championship of the world. Guys, I got to take Diego Lopes, and maybe you're going to call me crazy because of the way the last fight played out, but Lopes caught Volk with one good shot and put him down, and if there was more time in that round, he might have knocked Volk out. I think Lopes is the side. I think Lopes at plus odds is the side. And people are going to say, oh, well, Volk dominated, Volk this, Volk that, whatever. I get it, but Volk hasn't fought since this last fight either, and Lopes fought Gene Silva. And listen, I think that spinning elbow was kind of a fluke, but at the same time, I mean, he did knock out Gene Silva. And, fighting one more time after the title fight, I think that does give Lopes an advantage. Yeah, maybe he took more damage, but it's more experience in the cage. And I think Volk is going to be the minute winner. Volk is going to be the guy who wins the majority of the minutes, better counter striking, better footwork, better movement. But I think Diego's going to learn how to cut the cage off. I think Diego will learn how to fix his mistakes. I think he'll learn that Volk likes to jab and then lean straight back as he's going backwards. And I think Lopes is going to connect. I think Lopes is going to connect with a big shot. But I mean, even if he doesn't, I mean, I think fight ends by KO plus 130 is a good chance. Lopes by knockouts over plus 300. I think that's the way I would play it. But if you want to take the chance that maybe he hurts Volk and jumps on a guillotine or jumps into a triangle, I think that's definitely possible. I mean, if Brian Ortega can do it, I think Lopes can do it. And Lopes hits a lot harder than Brian Ortega, so maybe he could rock Volk enough to where he can jump on a sub and do that. But I like Lopes money line. It was at almost plus 140. Now it's down to plus 120. I think at plus money, you're getting a good deal and a good bet on Diego Lopes, who, like I said, has fought one more time since the last time we saw Volk. And, yeah, we don't know how good Volk's going to look coming back. He looked great in the last fight. I think this fight's going to be different. Every fight is different, but I like the Lopes money line plus 120, and I like the fight ends by KO because maybe Volk lands a good counter and does put down Lopes because of the amount of damage he took in that Silva fight before he found the finish. So, yeah, these are my best bets for UFC 325. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. I hope you guys make some money this weekend. I'm your host, Double M, and I'm out.